start here. I'm sitting here with my buddy Don. It's a little morning. We're doing this in the morning with coffee, so we'll be a little more tame probably. No whiskey.
No whiskey. It's a little early for that.
So the topic there's two topics we're going to do, and we'll do this first one here. I think we'll talk about rigging. Boxing, rigging.
Striking.
Yeah. Kind of the whole gamut there.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing for most people I've talked to, but I think it's kind of regional, some of that.
Yeah.
People in some areas call it striking, some people in some areas call it rigging, and I call it a strike dog, I guess, is how I refer to it anyway. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me, it was really one of the more difficult tasks of the hunt. There was two parts of the hunt that for me was difficult: starting the cat and finishing the cat. The middle part was kind of easy. You know what I mean? You couldn't tell if it was a deer or elk sometimes. Coyote. There was challenges. I don't want to say there wasn't challenges, but if you
weren't starting them right or finishing them right, who cared?
Yeah, exactly. So somebody's listening like, duh. That's probably. But getting, so let's just talk about like a box dog or a rig dog.
Mm-hmm.
Would you define them the same?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I think for our region, it's the same. But I think that
if you said boxing or rigging, would that mean the same to you?
Yeah, pretty much to me. But I know that there are some difference that some people consider a difference, and that is that some people will consider a box dog a dog that will ride inside the box and strike from inside the box.
Right.
And I haven't had but a couple of dogs. I probably haven't owned any dogs that were good at that. Because I probably overbreak my dog in the box from barking. I don't want him barking driving to and from hunts, and so I'd probably over break him from that. However, I do know a guy, an old timer here, that originally when I first started hunting with him would strike his dogs on racks, and towards the end he just never put them on the box, and they were or put them on the strike rails on the box. He would leave them in the box, and he had a couple of dogs that were excellent at it.
And so I want to stop for a second because we got a lot of listeners. We actually got more than 2 listeners. First time. So Don, for you don't know, he was on the very first podcast, and since that first podcast, we picked up a handful. Like we used to have 2 listeners, now we might have 4. So if you don't know, like the rig, when we talk about striking, on top of our dog boxes over here in the West, we normally have a little, I won't say cage, but like a
railing,
fence, railing, whatever, and you can chain them. A lot of people can chain them up. Yeah. I know, Don, you don't really chain very often, unless like I don't chain either, unless I'm like hunting around active logging.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
If I want to really control where my dogs can get down or not. But so, anyways, they on the top of our boxes, they have a railing that the dogs will stand up on top of, and traditionally you would clip them on, and they'd be clipped on until you let them off. And a lot of places, that's how they do it for the safety of the dog too.
Right. Yeah. If you're hunting near private properties where you don't want to turn loose in areas like that, and you don't want to put them back, put them in and unload them in that hunting active logging areas in our area, or other hunting seasons, if there's deer hunting seasons going on or elk or things like that, and you don't want a dog to get off and blast into somebody's hunt, then, I'll leave them on the rail.
So we'll cover some of that, like the handling of on and off the rig and how.
Mm-hmm.
But just I want to give a little bit of a preface on when we talk about rigging. So rigging for us would be dog on top of so you got a box in the back of your truck with a rail around the front, and just for the sake of probably everybody, they got a little chain on there, and you clip the chain to the dog, and so the dog's chained up and standing outside the box, and they ride around, and they're expected to bark when they smell the track of whatever game. So, and then boxing or box dog, what he was talking about is the dog inside the dog box, and maybe they have a head hole that their heads could come out the side, and so they would bark, but they would be inside the box and strike from inside the box. Their head may be out or whatever, but and then I think you could do roading, which we're not going to cover that too much, but that would be another way to hunt with a pickup.
To start a track,
is dogs running in front of the pickup. So for this episode, we're just going to really focus on on the rigging and around the box of the dog, the thing. So hopefully that. I just want to make sure that somebody listening to what we're saying some technical words. And if we catch a word, Don, like try to catch me when we talk about a technical word. Let's explain that for people who may not be from our region. This is all common knowledge and how we talk over here. And maybe in the southeast or the south, somebody's like, "What in the heck are you talking about? A strike rag and a rig?" You know what I mean? You may not have seen this. So anyways, I diverse.
Oh, that's all right. I think that was important to clarify some of those things, because I have seen dog boxes. Well, the time I went to Wisconsin with you, even the bear hunters,
so different.
Yeah, you looked out in the yard and there were a few rails, but a lot of flat top boxes.
And over there was a one dog rail.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like you had one or two dogs up there, and that was their.
It was interesting. Yeah.
So it's just so when you look in different areas and if you never got out of your area, you got to just looking at a dog box tells a lot, doesn't it, Don?
It does. Yeah, it does.
It's like,
you look at dog boxes. Some of them have side doors. Some of them have two doors. Some of them have one door. Some have a divider. Some don't. It's just the variations are endless, of course, and it's just a matter of the style of person.
One of the I'm going to pick on the Wisconsin guys just because they're my favorite. You guys are. I love you. I mean, Wisconsin's our favorite state.
I don't think you're going to hurt their feelings. Go ahead, Honor. From what I learned when I was over there,
they're already drunk. They already had a couple beers. It's early for them. For them,
coffee and it's 8. No way.
Anyways, their dog boxes. So when they come up on the side and then they angle 45 degrees.
Yeah.
That would not work here.
No, not unless you want to put some soap in there.
Exactly. You have dogs floating around in water. I mean, it would just the rain here. So our dogs, the rain is a big factor in how our boxes are designed. Is to keep our dogs dry, and so that our shavings and all that bedding has got to be dry. And the way their dog boxes are, it would take one day over here, and you just have.
You'd be full of water.
It'd be full of water.
Or snow and ice.
Yeah.
Snow and the ice, falling off the trees as you drive by, it'd just fall in them holes and it'd fill that box.
Yeah. So looking at a dog box, for me, and I don't want to say I would feel like, oh, that guy's from this place or whatever, but I just, regionally, the coon hunters, they don't have rig racks because they're hunting off a foot, and so anyways, the dog box is one of those things that I look at a truck. And it's just a story that it may be told. I could tell it wrong because I look at it and I may.
And I've seen some of those angled boxes here, and I thought, beginner.
Yeah,
you'll learn.
Yeah,
I'll see that thing on Facebook Marketplace before long.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the thing I wanted to touch on was not that angle, but I've seen one dog strikes, two dog strikes over there. So for some other people that listen to this, it may be different for you, and I don't want people to get, that this is the only way.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Anytime I'm on a podcast with you, I want everyone to understand that I am totally understand there are other regions and my way is not the only way. I've hunted around excellent cat hunters, that, totally different style than me, and I respect that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for our style, would you name this region? I mean, how would you name this cat hunting style?
I would call this Pacific Northwest. I would say that, and I've seen it several times on Facebook and social media where they refer to, they've kind of gotten away from West Coast dogs and are more specifically saying Pacific Northwest, which would be the, northwestern U.S. where it's
because it's a different style here.
Yeah,
I mean, it really is when you get out.
You have to be just because I guess you don't have to be, but I feel like in the best interest of the dog and and my experience in the area, which is my pretty much all my hounding has been in the Pacific Northwest. You just evolve into this kind of strategy, and you got to preserve your dog. If your dog's soaking wet and cold, it's at the 9th inning, it's not going to be there when you need it, as far as catching a second cat or it depends on what style you hunt.
So our discussions are, Pacific West Coast, rigging, Pacific Coast rigging, whatever, and mainly for cats is what we're talking about.
And we don't have a lot of snow too. I think that's
Yeah.
important. You can go find snow, but for the most part, if you're
waiting for snow, you're not
gonna spend much time out there, or you're gonna drive a long ways to go find it. And
then when you do get the snow,
it's gonna be too much.
Outside of the mountain, it's gonna be wet, crappy snow.
Right.
It's just gonna be miserable anyways, and you're better off without it.
Exactly. So, but then then we get those storms that come in the last few weeks where you do have snow, and I think that those are opportunities that I like to capitalize on, and I may mention that when we're talking specifically about striking. And how I.
So, how the hardest part, and I'm still close to it, so I can remember how frustrating it was for me to build. And I don't know that I have a really great strike setup. I think Shy's a decent strike dog. She strikes more than I'd like her to. Like there's definitely, she's not gonna let me pass them too much. I can tell you that. We're gonna pass. She's want to check out some stuff that we probably can't run. But and I think I've heard you say it, that the strike dog's born and not made.
Absolutely. I think you can encourage a dog to become a strike dog, or you can encourage a dog to strike, but the true strike dog, in my opinion, in my experience, I guess I should say, is that is born.
And why? What makes you say that? Like what?
Well,
do you have a dog's in mind?
Yeah, or? I got a dog once, and I think I mentioned this before in other podcasts. If you heard him, she's blue tick named Sally. I bought her off a guy. She was I'm 2.5, 3 years old when I bought her. Never was hunted hardly at all. And I put her on a few cat tracks in the snow, and anyways, that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, getting her started. But once she liked cats and targeted cats over everything else. But once she started becoming a cat dog, gearing and looking for cats, she loved the dog box to start out with, naturally. And rode the dog box with confidence to start out with, naturally, and just start striking.
So when you say rode with confidence, you mean on top of the box, on top comfortable, of the box, not cowering, not nervous?
Nope, never cowered, never. And the other thing that I found interesting about her and other good strike dogs that I've had, I see a lot of dogs, and I've owned a lot of dogs that put their feet on the rail and move around a lot, and but I think the best of my cat strike dogs have found an area on the box, a spot on the box, and stood on all 4 feet attentively, and they just kind of found a little groove there in that. That's where they rode, and that may have been back then.
Penny's was backwards.
Yeah,
like
we'll get to that because that's quite interesting. But I think they just kind of find a groove, and keep in mind that maybe some of that was taught back then, just because I tethered back then, 100% tethered. I didn't realize there was another way, and that was right when I got Sally. That was right in the when people started realizing that you can strike a bobcat from the rig on bare ground. I lived in a time where, and I was told by some old timers, you can't rig bobcats from the rig. You can't strike them. Dogs don't strike them. You got to road dogs to start bobcat tracks, or find them in the snow when there was snow. But I lived in a time when I was told that by old timers, and that's the reason I say a lot of times is, I think the dogs have evolved some, and they may have been right in their time. That may have been absolutely true. But I think dogs have evolved some, and they darn sure can strike a cat. I've done it, and I've seen it done, and I'm not saying that it can be done in every region, in every corner of the U.S., because I do think that there are some conditions that play into that as well. But anyways,
that's a hot topic. And, and the way I would address that, I guess, for me, is I think there's plenty of people who believe they're in one of those regions. I think there's more people who believe they're in one of those regions that I think you could than there than not, if
I
that
believe
makes sense.
so. I don't believe there are many regions that you couldn't
Yeah.
with the right dog. And again,
I've known a couple guys, like Wyoming would be one that I would consider a fairly dry north. It's a ways away from the Pacific Northwest. Let's just say it's about damn in the middle of the U.S. And I know several hunters that have had rig dogs that have gone over there. And my first question is, how's your dogs doing? They show up and they have a box with a rig on it, and people over there don't even know what that box looks like. You know what I mean? They're like, what is that thing?
hauling lumber?
Goats. Prize goats. That's my show goats. Anyways, and they said that they absolutely have rigged cats. So, and that's just a few, So I think,
and again, like I said, like I mentioned it, I was told you can't by my mentor, by the guy that lived right here, and several others like him agreed, and but I've always been a little bit oppositional about things like that, about being told anything, I guess, can't do, and it didn't take me long to find someone that's showed me there's another way. Robin Powell being the guy, he was like, "You absolutely can. I've done it," and he was absolutely right.
Right. So if with that said, what would be your first? And you're in a unique situation because you had to get out of dogs for a little bit for personal reasons. We're not going to get into that, but you eventually will start back again.
Absolutely.
You know what I
mean? That's my life goal. Yep, to get my dog. Yeah.
What do you think you would do to start that? You know what I mean? Is you're going to go through it again?
Yep.
And so I wanted to take your perspective because you're going to have to start over. I don't think you're going to go buy 4 finished dogs.
Absolutely not. Right. And the dogs that I gave away that were finished, I'm not going to ask for them back. Honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to the. I'm not.
We may edit that out. He might.
I might get a puppy out of them, but they may give them back. They may make me take them back. I don't know.
Take this son of a bitch back. Damn it.
But I'm actually kind of looking forward to the challenge. Knowing what I know or having the experience that I have, I guess would probably be a better way to say it without trying to. Having the experience that I have, I'm looking forward to the challenge of starting over again. I actually even thought about it at times when I had good packs of dogs. I was like, man, I wonder what it would be like to start over again with the technology that we have today and the experience that I have.
Right.
I've thought about that a lot, and
it's really easy to talk about it, but to do it is, you know what I mean? Like that's the part that I think a lot of the new guys, at least for me, whenever I was new, or not even new, but I still couldn't do it. Like I would come and hunt with you and watch, and it's like you make it look so easy. Like a guy that is trying to spit out advice, and he's not humble about it. You know what I mean? If he hasn't built it from the ground up and gone through the struggles, it's easy to be like, oh yeah, you just got to go get a finished dog, and that finished dog will teach this dog, and it's like, yeah, that's not exactly. I mean,
right, and it's not that easy.
Right.
For one, I don't believe, and I think that your pack will be as good as the dog that you bought, and that guy got rid of that dog for some reason.
Right.
And I mean, sometimes you'll get a superstar that'll come along and rise above quickly, but you might get 1 or 2 of them or 3 of them in a lifetime of those type of dogs. And I'm 51 now. I've probably had 3 now that have risen above. But anyway, back to getting started. Of course, picking a puppy is really, really important, and that's not the topic of this particular podcast, but I do think that that's a really good topic that we should touch on.
We're going to record that topic after this one.
Okay.
So I don't know which one's coming first.
Yeah.
So
we'll get to that.
Either heard this one, or not.
If not, go back to that one. And if we do, listen on.
Exactly.
But wait for the next one. But picking a puppy is really, really important. And again, especially if your desire to is to target bobcats and strike them which.
Okay. So you got your puppy. We're going to do a
So now
podcast topic just on picking a
So
puppy.
I got my puppy. I bring it home. I really like having a phantom dog box. If I have a permanent mounted dog box, I like to have a dog box in the backyard. And I like to get the dog. I'll even build a ramp when they're too little to get up there on their own to jump up there. So, and I leave the doors open. I'll pin the doors open so they don't get locked in there. Of course, if they're playing, if I have a couple of them at a time. But I'll and if I have one, I hide treats inside the dog box with the door open, and throw it in the hole and let them go in there and find it. And that box is a place of recreation, and they can climb up on it. I'll give them treats up there, and that's a lot of times because I've got kind of a stiff back, and it's just really easy for me and convenient. Put a rail on or put a ramp if I have to for a little gripper to get up and down on. I think it teaches them to balance and walk logs too. I think it's kind of a two birds, one stone. The dog gets up there and you get up there and you can walk up there and pet them. They're at your height. You can get in their face and pet them and rub them and give them a treat or whatever it is you want to do. Wrestle around with them. The box just becomes a very comfortable recreation place. And
I actually a lot of times my dog house, I feed them on there when they can jump up. You know what I mean? And so I feed them up on top, so they learn to jump up there and
onto that box.
And they're at that height where you can really engage with them.
I think that's a really good strategy also. But just familiarity with the box, I think, is really, really important, and consistently. And like I say, it's a toy. That's where we go to play and the dog just kind of understands that that's a place of work. And then I get asked quite a bit, about dog not tethering a dog and training them to get up and stay on there. And I see some guys that have dogs that I consider probably wild that get up on their pickup and get up. I have zero tolerance for that.
I want to talk about that because I hate that too. But my dogs they do want to. They inch their way forward.
Yep.
It frustrates the heck out of me. Yeah. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
So then eventually, when they get a little bigger, I'll, then when I hit the door and I have a treat in my hand going out into the back, if they're loose out there, as soon as I start walking across the yard, I tell them up, 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 up. And I'm walking straight to the dog box. I won't look at them. I don't give them absolutely zero attention. And this is when they're getting a little older, where they can jump up there. The rails or the ramp's gone.
Yeah, this isn't a 12 week.
12-week, yeah. We've played around the dog box. They know that they're comfortable up there. They know they're going to get a treat up there. They know it by now.
Yeah.
So I hit the back door, heading out back, walking towards dog box, and I'm telling them up, 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 up. That's my, I'll tell you why I do that too, but why I say it 3 times. But up, 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 walking towards the dog box, and they jump up there, they get scrubbed on, they get their treat, and they're learning to get up. I mean, they're learning the strategies of hunting before I even rode them around the dog box. And then I'll start making them stay up there. I'll walk away, and they'll jump off. They'll want to come with me. I'll put them back up there. Up, up, up when I'm putting them back up. Up, up, up. Every time. Never do I put them on the box that I don't say up, up, up. Never. I mean, it's consistently up, up, up. And even if I got to pick them up and put them on the box, I'm telling them that.
Right.
I tend to pick the wildest pup of the litter. I like that type of dog. I like those really active dogs. And so they tend to be a little harder, I think, yard break in some ways, but up, up, up on the box. And then I'll put them back up there, and then I'll start making them stay, holding them up there. And sometimes I'll even tether them I'll put them on a check cord so that they have to stay up there. And I'll walk away from them a ways. And when I say ways, I mean a few feet, so I can even reach them. And then I'll hold them up there and say, down, and I'll let them down. And I'll do that consistently.
And this is still in the yard.
Still in the yard. Box is still sitting on the ground. and so they've pretty much by this time they've mastered up, up, up. I mean, you'll know you do because you'll open the back door and say you don't know how they come out of your mouth. They know by the way you're walking. They know by the way that you hit the back door that what you're going to ask them to do, and they're up.
So I'm going to interrupt you here for a second, just because it's a podcast, not a monologue. But if you're sitting there thinking, I mean, because how much is your dog box?
I usually use a wooden one.
Exactly. You get an old one, get something for the house, build one. You know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be a functional. It'd just be a mock-up.
Exactly right.
But if you're thinking, this doesn't have to be, you got to go buy.
No.
If you want to go spend $2,000-$3,000 or whatever, Don W, we'll sell you two.
Yeah, I got a number.
Manage that. I'll figure that out.
You can use a doghouse like you were talking about. I think that's a great idea too.
Yeah, use a doghouse. Do something.
But I think that a dog box that
looks like a dog box.
I mean, a dog's not stupid. I mean, if it has, I think that if you use rails, it should have rails.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. So you can build something
absolutely
that is your yard one. If you don't want to go spend, the way metal is and all that, so I would build a wooden box or something, or
you go get pallets and OSB board and build a mock box. You know?
Exactly. So, anyways, with that said, if you're thinking it doesn't have to be like top of the line dog box just to sit in your yard, it would help, because I mean, I always I like two, so I can throw in one pig or whatever, but just and something
and if you get a couple puppies at once. It don't take them long to chew dog box up, believe it or not. I mean, they get because once they start learning to play around it, they'll chew it. I mean, when you're not around. I mean, some people kennel their dogs all the time. My puppies spend a lot of time free in the backyard.
Yeah,
and I live kind of in a neighborhood, and I do live in a neighborhood, and it helps them be quiet, and I think they learn a lot, socialize a lot.
Yeah.
But anyways.
So we got the up. And so from that point, as that pup is starting to, now the pup's going to go with you.
Yeah, he's starting to road a little bit too by now, and he's seeing the other dogs when I'd say up. If I'm hunting with other, but this, I think we should just kind of stick to one dog, and like I'm going to start out because I think that was, you got to kind of start with one dog, and so, So once this dog will be roding by now, he'll be 14 weeks, and I'll road him a little bit and try not to run over him or anything. And
it's helpful.
Yeah, it is. So I found out. Anyways, so he's starting to get up on the box, especially in the backyard. I hit the back door, he's getting up, and so now I'm starting to teach him, and I'll probably tether him in the woods right now, while I'm driving around. And just for safety, I don't want him jumping off the box or, see a deer and jump off the side of the box or fall off the box and get hurt.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of them will start riding the rail here, and I'll let them fall off. I keep short chain tethers on my.
You're riding the rail, put the front feet on the top.
Yeah, or on the side, or dancing around. Just how they do some. And especially, I think if you've done a really good job of yard breaking them on the box, they're really comfortable up there. Yeah. But they're not used to it moving around. They're not used to going through,
taking a turn when they're
the woods in Pacific Northwest, or that piece of brush hitting them in the face, so there's some learning for them to do. So I tether them. I will tether this pup, this young dog, as I start out, and when he falls off, or she, you gotta. This is really, really important to pay attention. Pay very, very close attention. Don't have having your nose in the phone or whatever. No distractions.
Yeah, don't jam out. Like you want to really watch. You want to be focused on your dog.
You do.
There's a time when you are hunting and you've got it figured out. You can just throw some music on and the dog will tell you. When you're training, that's not the time.
That's not the time. You really should be absolutely attentive to that dog, because dog can get hurt or killed here, and we don't know how many of the best top cat dogs have been hurt or killed before their time.
Yeah,
and so it don't give you an opportunity. You may have missed the dog because you ran over it, or it got jumped off the box and broke a leg young. Or hip or whatever. Anyways, so
or you might. I mean, even you might miss an opportunity by watching the body language of that
Absolutely.
pup if you're not
Absolutely.
paying attention before they
Absolutely.
really
And
know what to do.
and we'll talk about that's really important to talk about, and we definitely want to talk about starting a track off the box without being vocal.
Yeah.
And it's really important. Tether the dog on a short leads. Make sure that it's short enough wherever you put it. I always start my dog out on the driver's side, because I can see good. I can see him in the mirrors good.
Yeah.
And tether the short chain. You don't want the chain to be long enough that the dog, if and when it falls off, it can't get under that back tire.
Yeah.
You want it to be where it hangs up. You want it to hang the dog there. But I mean, that sounds terrible, but you want it to you want it to be short enough that that the dog doesn't get under that tire. That's super important.
Right.
But you want it to hang them up. I mean, like I say, again, that's but you don't want them to hang there and die, of course.
Yeah.
But let them hang up there a little bit. Jump out. Don't be angry. Don't push the dog back up on the box and say, up, up, up. Put the dog back on the box. I've been angry. I've made that mistake and had dogs that were shyer and that's a lot of lessons learned really fast, and it's really probably pretty dang scary for a pup, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
To hang there on the side of that dog box, and then to have their trainer, their handler, jump out angry and scolding, and
they already learned a lesson.
There's a lot going on.
Not on the hanging. So if a dog gets in between my box, so talking about dogs riding the rail or whatever, if they slip off and they fall in between the cab and the box, I just keep going. I'll let them sitting there in front of my, trying to figure out how to get back on the box. And that's a time when they're like, hey, I need some help here.
Anytime you're training a hound, anytime that you can capitalize on natural consequences, I'm sure you've heard me say this a million times. Anytime you can capitalize on natural consequences and take the handler factor out of the training and just let natural consequences fall in place, you have made strides. You have made strides. I mean,
I don't know if it's Dell. I don't know what's, but they'll fall in between that crack, and it's uncomfortable. I got stuff down there, and you can tell they're looking at me like, "Hey, can you stop and give me a hand?" And I'm just pretend like I don't even know what's going on. Like,
asshole! When I fell off the side, you helped me. Where are you at now?
Yeah, I was like, I thought you was here to help me. Like, no, there's a difference between death and uncomfortable. Yeah. And uncomfortable,
natural
consequence. I'm okay with uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I really love it when a dog strikes when another dog's in that position. That dog's really trying to get out of there.
Like a fish in there, I suppose. That would be funny. I'd get a kick out of that. Yes.
I'm going to hell for laughing sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
All right, let's keep on here.
But anyway, so it's I think it's really important, again, not to be angry at the dog for hanging itself or whatever.
Yeah.
In
any situation, if you can get away with it, like, they had their consequence. You got to understand, they've had a consequence already.
Yep.
You being angry is not a helpful consequence.
Well, I think you can go backwards if you get angry at this point.
Yeah.
And it depends on the dog. I've had dogs that do that 2 or 3 times, and then I get angry.
Yeah.
Then I scold them. Then I'm not so sweet about putting them back up.
They know what they're...
Yeah. And so it gives them one more reason not to screw up.
Yeah.
But that's graduated consequences, and I think that's important in dog training too, is to graduate consequences, especially with young dogs. And so now you have your dog, and he's learning to ride, and the dog box, and he's learned that lesson. Hopefully not to ride the rails and fall off. Dogs just get good feed on the box. Some do, some don't, but for the most part, I think if you're doing a good job of yard breaking, they eventually get their feet on the box, and for long, you 40 miles an hour, and them babies are just right there with you. You know, I mean, never fall
They're
off.
watching the road make
Right.
the turns.
Yeah, you can see them leaning before you come into the turn.
Right.
So, and then of course you have 2 or 3 pups on a box, and it's important then to tether them away from each other.
Yeah.
So that they're not knocking each other off, because then you can undo a lot of yard breaking really fast in a young dog. If you have one dog, that's a natural consequence, knocking the other dog off.
Yeah.
And so you're untraining your dog then. So
they're comfortable up there. What about now? So now let's get into the next phase, which would be now we're ready for them to, because everybody wants. I mean, and that's I guess why we're starting here is because everybody wants the end result, which is
sure.
Just throw a dog on it.
That's a long ways away.
Man,
yeah.
You got to remember that when you see that guy doing that, there's a lot of steps behind that, years sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I'd say for me, 4 or 5 years, I had dogs that would whine. I had, like,
yeah.
Was off? I just couldn't quite find that pulse.
Mm-hmm. And some of that, some of the whine has nothing. That's some of that has nothing to do with the dog. It has something. It's us.
Yeah.
And what our preference is, and we don't want to listen to that. And then it's time to turn the music on, I guess. But unfortunately for me, I have high frequency hearing loss, really bad. I mean, I had a explosion deal happen when I was probably 18, 17, and so I ride with people and they're like, man, that dog's sure whiny.
God, I think drives me nuts, Don.
And I'm like,
I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it.
I'm like, what dog is it? And it's the red one. There's 3 of them up there. But so I guess if whining dog bothers you, then
that may not be
maybe blow yourself up once and see if that helps.
Take some hearing out. We definitely fix the problem.
Yeah.
So you're saying the problem is it could be me, or I just don't have the right dog for me.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Again, that goes back to picking a pup. If you
ride and I can attest, Copper drive me freaking nuts. And now I'd either ignore it. Right. You know what I mean? Like, she's a damn nice dog that I want to keep her.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, this is what I got to put up with. I was not able to, maybe I don't think I could still to this day. She was so excited to try to find that track and she'd start whining into a bump, and and it was not good. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have the experience, number one. But as I grow older, I'm like, you know what? I'd put up with that now for the other things that she would do.
Right. You know what I would do with a dog like that?
What's that?
I'd put that thing on the ground and I'd take off. And I'd pick that dog up about 1.5 miles down the road.
Right.
Of a dead run. I'd take some battery charge off that dog.
Yeah.
And let that dog, every time that dog started whining, down. I'd get it down, not angrily, just get the dog down, jump my pickup, I'm out, and make that dog run.
Right.
I'd start out maybe 1/2 mile. Then I'd go 1 mile next time. And eventually you're going to wear some of that battery off that dog, and it's going to calm down up there. It's going to be tired up there. That's okay. A dog with that kind of energy isn't going to have any trouble keeping up. I mean, we're cat hunting, not bear hunting.
Right.
It might not be the case if I was bear hunting and I was going to put a dog in on a 15-mile race.
Right.
That might not be the best strategy, but for cat hunting, what we do, that's what I would do. Whether it works or not, I don't know. I mean, I've had dogs that would strike everything in the freaking country, and when she got down, I could tell. I mean, I could tell within short order whether we were going to start a track on that or not.
Right.
And if not, I'd take off, and she'd have to run 1 mile. And then up she'd go, and we do it again. And
those dogs get smart. They learn.
They learn natural consequences.
I know dogs. The dogs that hear my motor and they're like, "Oh shit!"
You're right.
better get up.
Their head throws up and they're like, "Oh no!"
Dang it! I screwed up.
I got to eat dust for 1 mile, But 2 things: you get a dog that's in fantastic shape, and
that's a plus.
And 2, you start breaking them from. Deterring them, I think, would probably be.
I think a couple things. You wear them down a little bit, so they're in a little better position to learn.
Absolutely.
If they're that high strung. You know what I mean? If you're running in the very beginning, it's like some of that. It's like, man, that first day may only be just natural consequences wearing them down.
Yeah.
And they're learning that if they want to get down and bark on a coyote track or a coyote whatever. Dang, I gotta run a mile after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they kind of. What happens next? I guess we'll skip the stories. They'll bark, but then they don't get off.
Right.
Like,
Right.
oh wait,
Yeah.
sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I've created some of those nightmares myself, as far as, you know, not tethering dogs, and then, training my dogs up, and then, actually, I guess when I say when I have dogs that, especially in my last pack of dogs, that would strike a track and stand on the box until I tell them okay,
Really?
and they would get down, and they were really, really well disciplined, and and then I had, and that was just a pendulum swing um, from mistakes, or from dogs that weren't vocal, and they would get down,
Jump down without barking.
Yeah, they would leave the dog box, and you'd have to pay attention, because
you
look back there and you wouldn't have any dogs. You'd be like,
oh,
and then you look in the Garmin and they're leaving. They're gone.
They're burning out of there.
They're burning out of there. And so then I kind of I swung the pendulum to teach my dogs to only get down when I told them to, and so then they would bark, and then I have to tell them to get down, which I actually I think that would probably be my end goal again when I get back to doing it, is that get down when I tell them to. And so, I think I enjoyed that the best.
Yeah. Well, let's get going. Like, this before we get like, I distracted you. I'm
That's
not
right.
blaming you, but so let's go back to, okay. So we've gotten some national consequences if they do something bad. You know what I mean? So how do we start engaging them into and here's the big question: are they going to? If they're going to, are you going to train it? I mean, this is the whole.
That is very difficult, I think, to answer that. I think you can encourage a dog. I believe that strike dogs, true strike dogs, are born, not made. However, I do believe you can encourage dogs to strike.
Right.
And will they become an excellent strike dog? That probably depends on how much opportunity they're given. But so now your dog's safely riding the box. This is the hardest part, and there are some strategies that you could use. If you put the dog on some training sense as a pup, and use that as a means of exercising the dog in trailing.
So done some drags or something.
Yeah, you've done some drags or things like that. There's some
you could help yourself here probably.
Yeah, and there's some other ways you could help yourself that we probably, that are just amongst us houndsmen, that we probably wouldn't share with the world. But and even those strategies you can do in a way that's not, in my opinion, not harmful to any animal. I think that then you can, and in retrospect, and talking about this topic, when I think that, honestly, I think that the first time that Sally struck off the box, for some reason, I feel like it was on scent, on a scented piece of bobcat hide that I had, and
you just put it somewhere.
I put it somewhere and drove past it, and she struck it, and I encouraged her, and from then on, it was like she got it.
Yeah,
she just got it, and just one time.
So you got your dog riding the
rail.
So now set it up if you can.
Absolutely.
Do your best.
It's in a controlled as you can, with
the expectation. And this is like when he says it's difficult. I mean this, like, you have to understand that what you're trying to do is, you're not teaching a drug dog. You know what I mean? Like, you probably ever can't be. You have to make that transition from setup to real life, and that's the hard part. So you're setting up, not doing it too much. You don't want to go 100 yards and just hammer that thing every time. You know what I mean? You may have to as a pup if you have a younger one, but then you got to go drive 2 miles and make a loop and come back by that thing or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you have to try to think about how are you going to set this up.
Yeah, and I think that you might make a few drags and make a drag. This would be like a training episode or opportunity. Go make a drag. Use good scent that you've used in the past, if that's the strategy that you're using, and that you've used as a puppy, with the puppy. Make a drag, and road your dog across it first, the first few times. Let the dog make the trail. Make the track. If you're treeing the hide, put it in a tree. If you're not, leave it on the ground and go with your dog. And when they find the hide, pet them up good, reward them. Let them know. Get really excited about the fact that they found it. Get really excited because that's the end goal. And your excitement is, your dog reads that, and that's what you really want. That's what you really want. That's a good dog. That's a good dog. But don't get discouraged if they don't do it the first few times. The
hard part, like that's a really difficult thing, because I can remember back then, you drive by it and they don't bark.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, and it's frustrating because you're like, and so you're.
Yeah, I think that really important that you road them across it a few times.
What happens?
So they're successful at roading across it and trailing it, and they know that that's what. And then tether them
road
up
them
there
first.
Yeah, so they know that that's.
So you put them on the rig,
and then
they drive by it.
And they do nothing.
Maybe they start to smell. You can see them smell or whatever.
Yeah, drive on.
Just drive on.
Drive on, yeah. And go hunting, go roading, go do
stuff for the day.
Go do stuff. Others find another training, teach them to come, or go for a walk, whatever. Take them to the pond and let them swim.
And I would probably not do that right away. I would make them ride on the box for a while.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like they pass their opportunity.
Yeah, right.
So if you kind of want them to let you know when you're passing opportunities. They don't want to pass too many opportunities if you're trying to set it up that way. And I've kind of, just thinking about it, I've watched you, if a dog doesn't go on a race, I watch you throw it in the dog box.
Yeah.
Here you go. You close the dog box up. You missed your opportunity for the day to go out.
Absolutely. And that's a good point too. So this is just starting out. I would go on and do another training, but as we got a little
older,
if I could road a dog across it and they're just bam, it's just so easy for the dog, and they're clearly enthusiastic about making that trail, then and they don't strike it, absolutely, I'll put a dog in the box and go home. Done. We're done for today. Go home, kennel them up. We're done for today. That's it. That's all we're doing today.
After they did a good job.
After they didn't. If I
didn't.
Yep. If I drove past a scent drag that I made, and they did nothing.
Do what you wanted.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just put them in a box and go home. We'll try again tomorrow.
Right.
And eventually they get to where they're like, this sucks. I want to get off and do stuff. And then I want to trail that. And I want to trail it really bad. And so,
they want you to be happy too.
Yeah.
Like they realize that.
Yeah. And then the other thing, so if you've done that a couple times and they're still not striking it, get out of the pickup and take the track yourself, run off and leave them tethered on the box. And let them sit up there and bark their...
bark at the tree.
Let them bark. As soon as they bark, go back and untether them. If you have somebody with you, you jump off you jump out of the pickup and take off. And, on the track, and if there's somebody with you...
The social aspect of being a dog in Don's pack.
as soon as you bark, you do what I want you to do.
Yeah.
Then have that person, don't say nothing. I tell that person to not say nothing.
Good boy, no nothing.
Nothing. As soon as that dog opens, untether it and let him come. And they should. I mean, if you picked your pup right, I think they should get.
Yeah.
And then finish a track. Let them finish the track and pet them up and go home.
Yeah.
And
I like it.
Do that a few times and see if that strategy works.
But I'm also twisted, Don. Because mentally I'm thinking the dog's like, oh my God, he took what the hell?
Yeah. Torture, I'm sure.
I want to go with them.
Yeah. And they
kill
do.
Them with kindness.
Right. And so, I think that, again, the natural box dog would have.
The same thing, and I would, if you have a dog that does strike and go, I've held dogs back, and I've watched you hold dogs back that don't bark, like leaving. So you got a young dog, so if you're not just working one dog, let's say you got two, you got the strike, and you got that young pup that's just going along. Don't untether it until it's doing what you want it to do.
Yeah, and I think too that I'll make the dog calm down a little bit before I'll turn him out. Let him off, because I've had the majority of them will go absolutely bananas up there.
Yeah.
Until I get him to calm down enough that
you're not fighting.
Right. I don't want him to leave the side of the dog box.
Yeah.
I don't want him jumping off that top rail. And if you turn them off and they're too excited, they can jump off the side of that rail, jump right in front of another rig, break their leg. I mean, 1,000 things. You don't want them leaving the side of the box. I want them leaving the back. And then like I mentioned, I think my end goal will be to leave the box when I tell them. So I may sit up there with them and calm them down, untether them, and say, "Okay," and then let them go.
Yeah.
And so they'll start getting that portion of the hunt. But and I know there are guys that hunt a lot more dogs too than I do. I only like to hunt 4 or 5 dogs at a time. I like to hunt 3 is my favorite, but oftentimes I have 4 or 5. But and so that makes that task really difficult.
Right.
So that's sometimes probably not feasible for some people, but that's just how I do it.
Right.
How I prefer.
With 3 or 4 dogs, you have
my style. Yeah.
Than 8 dogs.
Right. Yeah. See, that would be really tough.
The dogs start getting outnumbered.
Yeah. Yeah. You would be the one that was wore down. The dogs would still be ready to roll.
Exactly.
So I think that striking, you can encourage them by doing that.
Okay.
And the next thing, timing is really important. Their age. Depending on where you live, you may not ever get any snow. But here in the Pacific Northwest, you can count on some snow in some of the higher elevations every year. And then I'll start rigging boxing my dog around cat tracks in snow.
Now you pretty much, you don't drive around and look for a track. Your dogs are hunting. If you're hunting, your dogs are hunting.
Right.
Would you say that's a fair statement?
Absolutely.
So even if there's snow, you're kind of,
those
there
are
may be some
opportunities.
situations that maybe, but for the most part, your dogs will pick up tracks that you don't see sometimes.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you'll pick up tracks that they don't smell.
Absolutely.
It's
and that's
partnership.
That's condition and timing of the track, how old the track is and whatnot. And but especially young dogs, I'll hunt them the same in the snow as I would on bare ground.
Right.
I would box them, as long as it's not snowing sideways in their face and it's miserable for them.
Right.
But
because then that's a natural consequence.
Yeah. Then you're doing some untraining.
Yeah.
And so I think that snow is a really good opportunity. Some people would probably strongly disagree with that. So they just hate the snow or whatever. And that's just strategy and style. But
right.
I think that snows are really good opportunities
for somebody who has a running pack. Yeah, it's easy to sit back and be like, oh, I hate the snow, whatever. But for somebody new, like, take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Those are opportunities.
You can do it without snow if you do XYZ, but sometimes people forget. It's like you're kind of privileged in the fact that you have dogs that strike. You can go out and start a cat, and when you're in that boat, if you're in that pickup truck, then I really just caution you to just throw shade to some of these young guys or new guys. That's like, oh yeah, the snow. I hate the snow. It's just not. Because that may be all they have, you know what I mean? Sometimes
that's their opportunity to train that young dog, and I think this, I encourage folks to absolutely to go hunt with other successful hunters from your region, but understand that guy got there through trial and error, or some of them paid a lot of money to get finished dogs, and that's okay too. But he got there somehow, and he's making it look easy if you're hunting with the right guy anyway. And, but it was a struggle for him to get there. And
either financially,
right,
or time, or there was some commitment that he had to give up.
He gave up something.
He gave something. I don't know what it was.
And one I don't think is any better than the other.
Nope.
That's how he got there, and that's between him and his dog and his wife probably.
Yeah.
In his retirement plan, but
or lack of.
Right. Yeah. Anyways, those opportunities. It's. I think it's really.
So you would take it and do that dog the same when you can see.
Yeah,
the
when
ground,
you can see the track,
you can read tracks, and you can actually see what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and encourage your dog. You come across a cat track. If you've been in the Pacific Northwest, you know how to read tracks pretty good, and you should. And if not, then it don't take much practice, but you can get to where you know a good track from a bad one. And leave the dog in the box. Same deal. Kind of get out and look at the track and start walking the track a little bit. That dog's going to not like that.
Yeah.
Anytime he knows, because the work you've done prior, anytime you're leaving the road like that, something's up.
Yeah.
And they're reading your body language the whole time. As soon as they vocalize, unsnap them if that's your.
And so think about what you just said. We're running this podcast longer than we already wanted, but body language,
huge.
So I'm just thinking two scenarios. One scenario, you would want to be really excited it's a cat track, overexcited. Your body language want to be like, oh yeah, okay, or whatever it was you're gonna do, and then later in your training, you may want to be flatlined as possible.
Down. Absolutely.
Like get out on a coyote track, and the dogs could not tell if you're looking at a coyote track or I'm just thinking ahead. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So when you're in your training moment, I just think about what you want your body language to forecast in that moment, because it may be different later. Right now, you're just trying to get a Bobcat started, so you want them to know this is good.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But then later, I would caution you to be like, once that dog knows what's good, now you want to pull yourself out of the deciding factor of what's good and what's bad, because
you can do a lot of untraining really fast. I mean, that's kind of the theme of all hound training.
So in the beginning, what kind of body language would you try?
I think just initially, because I've done the groundwork, I've got out of the pickup. They are striking a scent trail or whatever opportunity strategy I'm using to get the dog started, to encouraging the dog to strike. Whatever I ended off with, if I ended that strategy with, I'm getting out of the pickup calmly. I'm even taking a deep breath before I even start, because I know I know my own self. I want to catch cats. That's what I'm here for. And I'm going to get. I know you've seen my body language when you've hunted with me. Be like,
oh shit.
Yeah, he's getting out of the pick. I get out of the pickup. By the time my boots hit the ground, you've hunted with me enough to know that. You better start getting some dogs ready, because this is a good one.
Yeah.
And my dogs know that before you did.
Yeah.
And so I've had to take a deep breath and get out of the pickup and go, not have a really good idea if I'm looking at a coyote track or a cat track yet, because of the snow conditions or whatever. But get out of the pickup, whatever you ended with drags and that's how I would get out of the pickup. If you're getting out of the pickup calmly and looking at the track, and checking it, waiting for the dog to bark, start walking it. You probably won't get far if you've done your yard breaking well. You won't get very far, and they'll vocalize. You let them off. And then, by then I'd be at that point with that dog that I'm getting pretty close to. I'd be getting pretty close to giving the dog permission to get off the box. I'd done it enough that you can come work this track, or but not before they vocalize.
I think so. That would be to start getting them on the edge of that.
Yeah, breaking them over from just training, scent training or whatever.
So using your body language, using space, to get away from the truck or get out of sight, or you know what I mean. Like those dogs are watching. don't watch them, but out of the corner of your eye, those
Yeah.
dogs are going to be so intent on what you're doing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they're going to be focused on you.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
those are some really good tips.
And
I
those
think, for
and those
people.
too, and this starts playing into this. This takes you kind of. You're starting to move towards breaking the dog now too. When you do cut that coyote track, you know it's a coyote track,
Yeah.
and you get out of the pickup and you look at it. They know the coyote. They're smelling it. If you got a dog that's, you know, you find a hot coyote track in this country a lot easier. You can find a hot bobcat track. But when you get out and look at it, and you do nothing but get back in the truck and drive off, or
Yeah.
you say, we don't want that one.
Yeah.
You know, you give them some kind of a.
Yeah, they're not ready to be trash broke yet.
No, not quite, not ready. I don't
know,
think.
I wouldn't.
But you're discouraging them from.
Yep, you're letting them know. Hey, he
Yeah, we
passed
don't.
that one. He
Yeah,
didn't
we
like
don't.
that.
Yeah, we don't do that one.
He didn't.
And
Then eventually, there's a time when you're going to get out and go. I don't know. You let a dog out to check it.
I've had dogs that I considered naturally broke or really close to it.
Yeah.
Natural, they were just naturally what I could call them naturally broke, but they weren't. The fact of the matter is they learned very early on through good ground yard training that we don't mess with those.
Yeah.
We don't. They learned somewhere. Somehow you taught them, or the pack taught them, depending on how you're. It's not a target game. That's not what we're after. And when you're doing that, you're
hitting.
You're becoming what I would consider a top handler.
Yeah, you're in tune. You're really. Yeah. It's, and I wasn't there in the beginning. Like I can honestly say, hopefully I'm there a lot better now. Like I would like to think I am, but I'm not. I don't. Whatever. I'm thinking about it all the time too. But those are the steps that a lot of people don't pay attention to.
Yeah, those are opportunities, and you don't want to pass on those.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's easy to drive by that bobcat track or that coyote track and go and just keep on driving.
Yep.
But that's an opportunity to go get out of the truck,
look at it,
and look at your dog and go, no, give him some kind of, nope, that's not what we're looking for, and get back in the truck and drive on. And especially if the dog vocalizes on it, you definitely then want to, scold the dog, but not overly. Don't make the mistake that I've made. I encourage you not to make this mistake. The dog struck it, and I turned out on it and fried him for it. You're not there with this dog.
Yeah.
I'm not there.
Take your time.
Yeah, I'm not quite there with that dog because I'm just training. I'm just now getting him to strike, and now I'm going to go backwards. 3 months by going ahead and letting him do the one thing that I don't want him to do.
Well, they did one thing you want him to do, just not on the right scenario.
And what the dog don't know is, did they get corrected for striking and getting off the box, running the coyote, or for going 100 yards on that track, or 50 yards?
Or check. They may not even fully committed.
Right. They may just be off.
They get down on it and they nap them as soon as they put their nose in it. It's like, you're not.
Yeah. They haven't committed to the track, right?
They might have been like, I just want to see if this is a cat or not, and you're already before they can make their own decision. So,
and here's the thing I've done: I put boot in mouth when I went to go correct on a dog, and guess what? 3 more feet down the hill there's a freaking cat track. My old dogs are going. I'm fixing to fry everybody.
Yeah.
I get down there, and guess what? There's a cat track there.
Yeah.
That dog did everything I wanted it to do. And here I'm thinking,
take your time on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking this puppy got everybody running this coyote track. And I get down there and I'm like, that's not true. So just when there are opportunities to make sure that you're not the fool, take them.
Yeah,
take them, because you can go backwards a long ways really fast.
So that's still in the training center. So now you're driving down the road. So those are, I think, really some really excellent training tips or whatever. And so whether you're setting up or whatever, you're driving down the road and the dog barks, or hopefully, I mean, that's what it may not ever. That's the hard part, but you get that whine, or you get that dog that
strikes,
got its nose sticking so far out of the side of the pickup truck.
They're giving you the language that something's up.
Yeah, they're like, I mean, they're smelling something and trying to stick their neck out as far as they can to what would you do?
Well, it's time to start putting them out. I mean, it's time to let them run it. And
so if they bark,
Yeah, I would let them.
Stop.
Yep, I'd stop and let them off. Depending on where you're at, if you're a tether person or if you're not a tether person.
Yeah.
Um, okay, get off the box or down, and but don't go with them. Let them. If you're on if you're on bare ground and you don't know for sure if it's a bobcat track or off game. I don't go with them. Stand close to your pickup, or even get back in your pickup and let them do the work. Let them commit, um, and let them run it. I mean, you can't if they go 100 yards and you find start looking for tracks. As soon as they leave, get kind of out of sight. It kind of depends on the dog.
Yeah.
Um, of course, look for tracks if you got some dust, if you got a bank, if you got somewhere to look for a track, but don't commit for them because you can commit them to a coyote track really easy, and you don't want to do that. So it's got to be.
This is the dance. I mean,
this is the dance. This is where everything starts getting rough.
Yeah.
And
so we're at this transition between training and I think like a knife edge. We're trying to cross over that edge to get to hunting. You know what I mean? So now we may be setting up drags. We may be setting up snow. Looking at tracks in the snow or whatever. Now we're wanting the dog to give us the cues, and we're going to try and transition between letting the dog decide where. You know what I mean? It's a dance.
It's a dance. It's where this gets discouraging for folks that don't have their heart in it.
Right.
And any mistakes you made in what I consider the yard breaking, which pretty much all we've talked about to me is yard breaking.
Easy to recover.
Yeah.
You just go back and you can
go back
to unwind.
It's easy to go back a month. It's easy to go back 2 months. It's easy to screw up. And that's the discouragaing part. That's
because you can just set it back up.
You can set up and start over. And that's the thing you got to remember. When you screw up, go back to what you know. Go back to and start again.
Jared talks about that in Bird Dogs, where he wants a foundation. He goes step,
absolutely.
Because if he messes up here, he can go back a step.
Absolutely. And the Bird Dog guys have a ton of my respect because one, how well they've bred dogs. They've done a fantastic job of breeding dogs. And two, their training strategies. But their hunts are primarily all controlled. Well, not controlled, but all within eyesight.
Yeah.
Where our dog's going to hit in the Pacific Northwest, that dog leaves the road, you may not see it again, maybe for 2 days. Hopefully not, but there are times. I mean, and this is where you got to do your diligence and this is where technology has helped us a lot too. Your dog starts a track and he's trailing across a mountain and he's heading towards Sandy Creek. You can get over there and here's another opportunity to find a track on the bank, or you may even sit there and see the game cross the road. There's opportunities then to stop the dog. And initially, worst case scenario, which is the most likely scenario, is that it's running a deer or a coyote, some kind of off game. It's just, I don't know, it's just the way it is. And when they cross the road and you've identified that it's off game, don't go frying the dog. I encourage you to not go frying the dog. Now's not the time, especially if it's their first time. Time to pick the dog up, scald it, put it in the dog box, go home. If it frustrated you, absolutely go home. Absolutely go home now. If you're really a determined type person, scold the dog, put it in the dog box, drive down the road 3 miles, maybe road the dog some again, kind of start the whole hunt. Yep, start the whole hunt over again, and try again. And chances are you're going to run another one. I mean, you can't push that brake too quick. That's a whole nother topic again. But making that transition is capitalizing on every opportunity to correct the dog for off game, which there's going to be far more opportunities to correct a dog than there are to encourage the dog or positively enforce the dog. Usually, unless you live in a place that has a ton of bobcats, which I don't. There's going to be a lot more opportunities to, like I say, to correct. So, but you got to capitalize on those too. But I just encourage folks to slow the break down. Don't try to break them overnight. It didn't, the old timer down the road didn't break his first dogs overnight.
Yeah.
You're
in this for a long game. Like
that's right.
If you don't look at it from,
there's so many failures.
Yeah.
And don't call them I encourage you. I don't even tell myself they're failures. Those were opportunities. Yeah. How well did I capitalize on that? That's what you always got to ask yourself. I caught him running a coyote. I caught her running a coyote. It was her first coyote. I scalded her, loaded her up, and we went and did reset. I didn't fry her. I didn't. What I don't want to do is, and this is a mistake I see a lot is, and hear a lot is, I took a deer track, went 100 yards up there, I fried her back to the rig. Have you done anything else other than that? I mean,
yeah. What did you teach her that day?
Yeah, and that's a whole nother topic again. Yeah. We'll stay on the
boxing.
On the boxing, and you're there. You're where.
Yeah,
you're where you're going to take it.
What we're saying is there's a ton of things coming together right at this moment.
Yeah.
That it's not just rigging. Like
right.
Yeah. And that's the hard part when we think about it and like unwind everything. It's like, oh man, there's trash. There's all these. It's a really difficult task.
Oh, yes.
The whole thing to do is like.
Yeah.
And so if you're the new kid or been trying for several years and you're still struggling, like that's normal. Like,
yep.
That's what
I've known guys that have born in a dog box, owned hounds for 40 years or more, and still can't train a dog. You couldn't if you gave them a good dog, they'd screw it up.
Yeah.
And so just because I absolutely don't want to take away from the old timers, but just remember there are old timers out there that are still struggling. There's old timers out there that can't train a dog too.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wonder why they still do it, but it's none of my business why they still do it. They love it, and that's good.
Because I love the challenge, John. I'm just telling you right now from my answer. I'd be like, you're talking about me. I think no. 20 years. I'll be like, I just love the challenge. John.
Yeah, and that might be me. That might be me on my next podcast. You'd be like, well, how'd it go, Don? Well, I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it. So I got notes here as we start to wrap up. Starting a track off the box, and I think this is kind of where we're at right now is you're on this knife edge. I mean, the dog barks. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, you're just gonna turn it off and don't encourage the dog to take the track, and don't discourage it unless you're in the snow and you can
bark.
On the encourage, don't start walking out the track the direction your dog's going. If your dog's trying to make a track off the road to the left, go to the bank on the right and mind your own business.
Right.
Try to find a track. Try to verify what you're doing, but don't go back to what you were doing where you were walking the track.
So don't let the dog cue that
you've approved this track already.
Yeah.
You don't want to
or the training of you using that opportunity where you walked out of track. She's gonna be like, yeah, we're here. Because that dog's probably trying to read you right now.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying is don't approve the track, and I guess that's what I missed saying when you walk that track or you walk that drag and encourage them, you're approving that track for them.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to approve that track until you know what it is.
So if I backed up just a little bit for somebody thinking and taking notes, is at the end of your training session, you should probably be thinking about that step.
Absolutely.
That you make the dog take the track, not you approving. So
exactly.
While you're still in the training scenario, it may be good to check that box off that says, hey, I know where the dog
took the track when I turned it off during training without me approving the track.
But the dog, because you know where it is.
Yep.
You may. It's just like it's that old saying, like don't look up at a tree when you get to a tree. Like unless if the dog's not treeing, I want to be really careful about looking for the cat.
Approving it. Yeah.
Because man, as soon as you look up, they're like, it's up there, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
That's a real. I mean, that's I just kind of aha moment that I want to
go back.
Out.
I guess. Yeah, right. Going back. Once you've approved tracks, your young dog, your prospect is taking those tracks with great. Now the next step is you don't have to approve it. You unsnap the dog, it gets off the box, takes the track, and without you approving it.
Yeah.
Now you're ready. Now you're definitely
your body language.
You're definitely on the edge for a coyote race. I can tell you that right now. you're definitely ready for some of the heartbreaks of hound dogging. So
at some point you got to take your approval back. You're like, I really don't approve of that, but you can take your approval card away.
Yeah, right. And you'll find, I hear this dog won't take a track. Won't, well, what kind of groundwork have you done?
Yeah.
You try to push a brake on a dog.
Why? And what's that dog reading? That
absolutely. Did you take a young dog out that had poor groundwork done and deer crossed the road in front of you, turned out on it, and of course the dog took it. Especially if you've seen it, it's on the dog box. Dog struck the deer. You turn the dog off from it. On it, the dog, of course, takes it. Whether he took it or not, or if he's just running because he sees it.
Yeah.
Did it take it with heart or not? And then you fry the dog. Boy, I don't think you've done your end goal any good.
Right.
You may have gone backwards from no yard breaking to, I may ruin this dog.
Yeah.
Which anybody that's done this very long has probably ruined a fair number of them. And that's, I've always asked myself that same question. Any time that a dog hasn't made it and wound up, as a cull, what did I do to put that dog where it's at now? What part did I play in that dog being a cull?
Right.
And was I not dynamic enough? Did I not, because I trained 4 dogs successfully using this style and the strategy, and then I get this other dog, because I always enjoyed getting dogs from all over the place and trying them. Once I have a good pack, I always I call it my gambler dog, and I try to use the same strategy on that dog that I used on the 3 other dogs that are in my pack, and not pay enough attention to that dog and its response and the difference in breeding and style or whatever of that dog, and did I make it a cull?
Yeah.
I think that any houndsman that measures his success by his bone pile is doing himself in the pack or the breeding, all breeds, an unjust.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. I wish there was a more definitive way to go, by gosh, this is how you do it. But
yes, ABC. No, I think there's really good pointers there. So starting a track off the box is the last thing I got. I think we covered everything.
Right.
Loading it. I got loading and unloading manners, which is a lot of the beginning. We talked about that, but I kind of want to touch back on that. Don't drop those early up. You know what I mean? All
Absolutely.
Your basics, and they stay
Always
with you through this whole transition.
Always.
As they go in the box, as they come out of the box. I know somebody made a comment when I did a TD15X video, and open the dog box, one dog at a time comes out. I collar it. That's part of that whole routine. It's like You're in a routine. They come out of they go in the box the same as they come out of the box. Calm and collected, and it's not a dump the box. At least for us. I'm not saying that there aren't people who do, or like they dump the DFB
Absolutely.
or whatever you call that.
Yeah,
and there's times it's like we're gonna dump the box.
Yeah, absolutely. Across the road, let's go. But absolutely. And my fear is of course dumping the box, and I'm just letting them out to go to empty out, and I couldn't count the number of times I've dumped the box, empty dog out, and we started a track there.
Right.
So I like very disciplined dogs. That's what I like. That's what I shoot for. And that tells me I'm doing my groundwork. That tells me I'm doing my yard breaking. And coming out of the box too wild is, hit me in the face with their nose and those that's getting us off to a bad start in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
it'd be frustrating.
Yeah, it is. I've been hit in the face. I and then of course and that sucks, and you got a bloody nose, and it's not the dog's fault. It's probably yours, but and I know guys that call them out by name. And I don't do that, but man, I sure have hats off to those guys that do.
I do.
Yeah,
I
that guy.
like to
Yep,
tell which dog
absolutely.
is like when it comes out of my box. I'm like, hey Andy, because I got the collars, and so I've gotten to the point where it's like I just want them all to come out by name.
Yeah,
because it starts my day, and I've you may not do it that way, but I think you do.
absolutely.
I think you actually probably do
You don't
decide which
know it.
dog you want to come
Yeah,
out.
maybe.
You're just not realizing it right now, but it is just that calm. Everybody comes out calm. Everybody knows it's, and then we can.
Yeah,
It's like a this is what we do. We look
right.
good at doing it. We're
Well, I mean, the goal
professional.
is to catch cats,
Yep.
and if that's your goal, then horseplay is not part of that.
Yeah.
It's you're there to catch cats, and I like dogs that portray that. They don't, they're out there to catch
And I
cats,
can
and
say
they're
I've
serious
gotten
about
that
it.
from you. That's a something. So even if you say you don't do it, I bet you do. I
Maybe,
bet
yeah,
you
probably it.
when you got your collars laying out there, you pick which collar you want, and you
Call it dog,
grab to
yeah.
the dog. You just don't realize it.
Yeah,
So,
probably. Yeah.
So starting a track off the box.
So I've had dogs that would not be considered a strike dog because they're not vocal. I don't tether on my dog box.
Right.
And again, I think I swung the pendulum too far, and somewhere along the line, and the dog was not vocal. He would just leave the box, and it'd be a rough track. I mean, it was a cold track. I've had dogs that, and then the same deal, leave the dog box on a hot track, not vocal at all, just poof poof off the box and they're gone. I tried to correct that by tethering them again and making them vocal before, and I don't think I was consistent with it enough to correct that, but um, and maybe I just kind of got to where it was like starting a track, roading them, starting a track off the box, um, and and then again thinking back to, well, these are dogs that I taught to strike.
Yeah.
They're not natural rig dogs. These are dogs that have
They're trained.
I trained them to start tracks off the box, and through that training, vocalization apparently wasn't part of it.
Right.
For whatever reason, and
They're trained to start a cat off the box,
yeah,
not trained to bark or
yeah,
strike.
exactly, and
There's a nuance there that
yeah,
people can look at and go, yeah, and so that's what you're saying. Is sometimes you look at it and go, this is the difference between a rig dog that was born and one that you trained.
exactly, and the dogs that were starting them tracks off the box. The one, I guess it's been one, but there was a pack behind it. But she didn't miss many. Fortunately, she was a heavy dog, so I knew when she jumped off the box, she's a big.
The springs will move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had to pay attention all the time, and I didn't care for that. That wasn't my end goal. I mean, and I think probably I could have corrected it if I was more consistent, but I wanted to catch cats, not mess around,
Yeah.
And
so you let it go.
it just didn't really bother me that much. I got used to it, and maybe she trained me, and there's always that going on. The dogs are trying to train you, and but she was starting tracks and I was catching cats, so okay, that's what we're doing right now. That's
it's a
how
give and take, and
that's
it's kind of like going back to the wine and dog. It's like, well, there's some things I'll put up with,
exactly,
and there's some things you won't put up with.
Exactly, and and as I got older, probably I got lazy where I didn't want to, like say, tether everybody and then untether, knock everybody loose. To correct that, maybe it would have corrected it, maybe it wouldn't have. I'm sure I could have come up with some strategies to correct. Maybe I should have went back to very basics and make a drag or two and had them vocalize on it and open or let them off. But it wasn't worth it to me. I guess I was still catching cats and I was happy with that. But
you skipped a step, but it wasn't deterring your end result.
Right.
I guess is a good way of saying that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, but at least the good thing is you at least acknowledged and thought about the step that you skipped.
Yeah. Yeah. And and probably the step that I ultimately skipped was I picked the wrong dog from the wrong pack. She wasn't a natural strike dog, and so, and even that, even if as everyone, all houndsmen, if you've done it very long, you learn pretty quick. Just just because parents did it, don't mean it's going to do it. But it does increase the likelihood that it's going to be this or be that.
As we wrap up here, I think we got some good topics here. I want you to talk about, going back to the beginning. I'm sure you say it. The strike dog is born and not made, and so we just tried to make a strike dog.
That's what we tried to do. Yeah,
because everybody sometimes that's what you got. I mean,
absolutely.
It doesn't mean you just got to realize that maybe you're trying to make a strike dog, and somebody could have that born strike dog, and you'd be like, "What am I doing wrong?" And
right.
It's like, well, you got the wrong dog. That doesn't mean you got to get rid of your dog and go find you. You might not. That might not be an easy task to do either.
Right.
But you just got to have that in mind.
You'll spend. If you're buying dogs and trying to buy the natural, you can buy dogs your whole life and never have one.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had, like say, one that Sally dog was an absolute born strike dog.
And what made her a born strike dog?
She just naturally, again, 2 or 3 years old without zero training as far as handling, and put her on a box and kind of showed her let her do it once.
Yeah.
With a.
She just got it.
She got it. That one, and that was it.
So are there cues that you would look for in somebody's pack to go, I think that might make a strike dog, or no, I don't know. I mean, if you were to, if you don't do this, but if you were to try to judge somebody or help somebody that they got 4 dogs now, and they're having a hard time with this, what dog would you want them to focus on? What tips would you seeing Sally and seeing dogs that you had a hard time getting to strike?
So you got 4 dogs, and you've done some groundwork, but nobody's striking.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a tough one.
Well, if you're trying to train it, like, what are you looking for in a dog that you think that you want to encourage?
The one that you want to focus on?
Yeah.
The one that looks the most comfortable on the dog box.
Okay.
The one that looks like it's using the air. It's putting its nose and changing its position in its nose. It don't have to be the crazy dog up there gets it's flashy. It gets a lot of attention from you. Gets a lot of attention from others.
You're always watching that dog.
You're always watching that dog. Yeah, it's moving around.
That's taking all the attention.
Yeah, absolutely. If the dog that is hunting from the box, it's not jumping all over the place. It's not using the dog box as an exercise platform. It's working. You can see the dog is working on the box.
Okay.
Focused. That's the dog I would encourage too.
Because that's doing something. We just want to teach it what to
absolutely
or bring out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It just may not know you want it to bark.
Exactly.
It may acknowledge it. It may know it's there. It identifies it. Most of them probably identify it. I'd say if they're hunting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most of the dogs at least know it's there.
Right. Absolutely. And I think there's some with today's technology. I would encourage somebody to put a camera up there so you're watching it all the time.
Yeah.
You can see, I mean, you're not missing, because again, I think that people, it's easy to consider that, and it may not even be the first dog to vocalize up there. You may have bee striking tracks up there, but you think that, that Bambi, the dog that's bumping all over the place, and the first one to vocalize is the one that's striking, but Bobo over there in the corner, got his head in it and throws his head up, and then
Bambi sees
him throw his head up, and she's off the box first. She didn't strike she didn't start the track. Bobo in the corner started the track.
Yeah,
and you missed it because you can't see back there. It's on the box, or you weren't paying attention, and so now you think, Bambi is the strike dog, and she's not. It's really the other dog that started the track.
Yeah, she's just taking all the.
She's reading the cue from the other dog, and she's quick to vocalize. Yeah, she's the
flashy dog. Always gets the.
Yes, gets all the credit when, flashy dog didn't do the work.
Yeah,
That's
interesting. So, Sally and Penny, tell us a story about Regan and how Penny. So Penny was a dog. I ended up with Penny. Mm-hmm. I think we covered it in the first podcast you gave it to me. I think you felt sorry for me, but anyways, Penny would always ride that. If you're riding behind Don, you had one dog that was faced backwards. All the dogs going forward, and Penny just sit on the back and just look at you. I mean,
she took her position, and she learned that,
and she just sit there. I mean, it was like she's just like you'd almost be like
literally sit on her butt, stoic looking like a statue,
and just look at the car behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine what. Yeah, I can't believe you're eating that in front of me. But which she was very food driven, so yeah, that was probably going through her head. But she
staring contest when you're like you had to look away because you're like it's kind of awkward, Penny. I mean, it's really awkward. You're just staring at us,
right? Yeah,
it's like that kid in the minivan. Try that in the back of the minivan, looking back out the back window. That's what Penny was driving behind you.
You really want to know what it's like to hunt with Penny? Go to next time you're in the checkout line, the cashier, just do this. Do that stare thing. Look at her right in the eyes, stoically. See how uncomfortable that is for both of you.
Exactly.
That's what it's like to hunt with Penny. But to follow Penny around. But Penny, like me, was fortunate enough to hunt behind Sally, and Sally was absolute fantastic strike dog. Right. Didn't miss much. She stood in the corner of the railing, all 4 feet on the platform. Always looking for the wind, always looking for the air. And I just don't think she ever missed much. I mean, she was a fantastic strike dog. And so
Penny would be
right behind her,
like sitting there backwards, ready to jump off the box.
She's waiting
take the track away.
Yep, waiting for the trigger. And the second Sally would throw her head up, she was off that box and looking to start that track. And so those dogs had their role. And Sally would strike the track and Penny would start it. And of course they'd all go to work on it. I put everybody's in or everybody's out. And so that's how we hunted. And those were during the Penny Turk days. That was a really solid pack of dogs. And we had a lot of cats, and at that time we had a lot of ground open to hunt. They were a pretty solid pack of dogs, and I was very proud to own them. And of course, Sally got older, and she wound up with kidney failure and liver deal, and I had to put her down. So as
she was the dog that struck.
She's my strike dog, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. Now I didn't have another dog that even struck.
Didn't even bark on the box hardly.
Nope, didn't. Nothing could strike ahead of her. I thought, well, I'd have no strike dog now. Here we go. Mm-hmm. I got caught with my pants down. And so, of course, what do? You go hunting. You get up the next morning, go hunting anyway. And so I maybe a day or two of boxing around, Penny sitting on the same spot, but no Sally there. And it wasn't long. And
so the first day or two, you didn't strike.
I didn't strike anything, and I knew I was in good cat ground.
So you knew you were passing.
So now I am roading dogs to start tracks, and so I'm catching a couple cats, but not like I was, of course, because I can't cover ground like I could. But it didn't take but a few days of hunting, and now Penny still sat in the same spot, but the difference is instead of staring off into space, she's got her head to the edge of the road. I see her starting to catch wind, starting to work the wind, and it wasn't a week. I know that, and she was just one. She wasn't blow the box up like Sally. She was just a whoop and off the box.
Yeah,
and second best strike dog I've ever owned. Just that quick, that easy.
So she was there.
She just changed her role.
Her role before was Sally's the strike dog, I'm the start dog.
Yeah.
And now she's like, well, now I got to do them both.
And in retrospect, I think in the end, I enjoyed Penny as a strike dog a little more because percentage of tracks that she would strike. I don't think she was striking every cold track that old Sally was.
Oh.
But the ones she picked to strike, we would catch a larger percentage of them.
So she's a little more measured, maybe.
But
you think she just passed up tracks that she couldn't start?
Yeah, I mean, because she
you don't know, but
she would strike or she would start tracks that were soft strikes by Sally. You could tell they weren't blow it up hot tracks, she'd get off and start them, and we'd catch them. I don't know if she was, if she knew that this is a cat I can catch.
The piss piles, or
Yeah,
versus...
this is a cat I can't catch. I don't know. You never know, but I've heard that from the bear hunters, especially, that they've had dogs that that won't go on a mean bear. They've never seen the bear. They just know a mean bear somehow, compared to others, and they just don't do mean bears. And any other bear they do, but not a mean one. And so something that I don't understand, like I say, is that I believe she had every bit of the nose and the ability to smell a track that Sally did, but she just picked her strike better.
Yeah.
So
a little more careful.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say that the more hunted down they got,
they would pick their tracks a little better too. Yeah.
They're coming out of their spry. They were like, let's try this one. Let's try that one. Let's try this one.
And Sally was the, as we mentioned earlier, she was the one that strike every freaking wide leaf branch that stuck out in the road that a cat would spray on, pee on. And, I'd be like, okay, about the third one of those in a day, I'd take off and run her, make her run for a mile, and then put her back up, and we'd try that again. And sometimes it worked out where in that mile we'd find the track.
Did you go back like, shit, I gotta go
and
back?
She was right, and I had to go back and put everybody on.
And all the other dogs are like, asshole, she's now we're the ones that were on the box following. And
natural consequences, Dad. What do you think of that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, she actually had it that time. So that's the funny part sometimes, is
it's that edge. It's that edge where you're you think you got it and you don't.
Yeah. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't.
The majority of the time you probably don't. But but you like.
And so Sally came out, and she was your rig dog. She
Penny, yeah. Penny stepped up, and she fantastic rig dog, strike dog.
And then Turk actually was
Turk. Yep, Turk come in there and filled the shoes when Penny started. They kind of together were strike dogs for quite a while too.
Yeah.
And Turk again was another stoic, hardworking dog. If I could define him, he was not a master at anything, but good at everything.
Right.
And so he was a good strike dog, but not what I would consider a top strike dog. But he definitely contributed on the box, and he was but stoic. And all 4 feet on the box all the time, find the air, and he would hit him and we'd catch him. He was and it's just kind of rolled that way for the next 20 years.
So do you have, as we wrap this up, do you have any nightmares about boxes, like strike? I mean, what?
Yeah, my nightmares are falling off the box and getting hurt.
Yeah,
that's the number one that I think I've had a couple. One in particular that broke a leg doing that, and turned out to be a fantastic dog for another guy that don't hunt as often as I did, as hard as I did.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is just that anxiety of being on that edge, and they go piling off there and start a track, and you have no clue what this is going to turn out to be, and trying to get ahead of the dog, try to identify, try to figure out what's going on, and that's the nightmare. I mean, it's because of course the more they run off game, the better they get at it, I guess, and the more they think it's okay.
Yeah.
So.
And then and to wrap it back up, I guess, as we end this, it's a grind. Like, if you're expecting to hop out and be into dogs and be successful in a year, you're in the wrong game.
Yeah. It's tough. And you hopefully you did go out and hunt with the local hunter, and you did see that it was possible.
Yeah.
You did create some ideas, but he got there somewhere. And if you're riding with the right guy, you made it look easy. It's not.
Yeah.
He got there somehow, and you gotta want this. I mean, you gotta have a passion for this. Not man. Bob down there did I went with him 3 times. We caught 3 cats. Man, it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, old Bob did some work, I promise you.
Yeah.
So
there's a dedication that
absolutely
sometimes is underestimated a little bit.
My God. And more than yeah, you can't even put that into a podcast. I mean, it's something different. It's something different.
And then you'll see some kids that may be natural at it.
Absolutely.
And they may really read these cues and you know what I mean? Not saying there's people that can't do it faster than I can, because there are definitely people that can do it a lot faster than I can. That they can read those dog cues and read these things and they study. And I know of a couple that are just really
natural dog
handlers. They think a little bit more than I do on a you know, I was kind of the old turn a dog loose, let it go, and it's like, man, these little cues that you're talking about, I think just help your curve. You know what I mean? I think that's part of it. And it takes most people a long time to pick up these cues of a dog. You know, because there's so much unspoken language between you and the dog that you're not picking up on.
Yeah. So in that sense too, pay attention to those guys. If you're an older guy, I mean, like myself, I see those guys that there's some young guys, a couple of them in the Pacific Northwest right now that are catching cats pretty consistently, and I'd love to ride with them.
Yeah,
I'd love to see their strategies and their dogs and their their and a couple of these guys were not born in a dog box.
Right.
These guys are just natural dog handlers. I mean, they could probably train a horse the same way. They're just naturally that way. And
I wasn't one of them.
I won't take away any credit for myself. I think that I did have a mentor. We didn't catch a lot of game together. I did see things differently than he did, even as a 12-year-old. When I got my first dog, I created my own strategies and became my own houndsman. So I feel like in some ways I'm probably natural at it too with dogs. Yeah. I'm a hell of a lot better at dogs than I was women, I can tell you that. But
you haven't figured out the body language and social cues of women yet? I mean,
I think some of my responses are off.
You can see them.
I think some of my responses are off, and they never took to the shot collar too well. Just some of my strategies I think are off, but when it comes to dogs, I think without trying to sound arrogant and remain humble, I think I just kind of had a way with dogs to start out with, and I love to be in the company of dogs. And I can't remember a time in my life that I didn't have dogs, so no matter what I was doing, if I was messing with horses, there was a dog there. If I was mechanicking, there was a dog there. So I think probably through all of that and just probably just my childhood experience and the way I was raised, that there's opportunity for me to have a dog for one, and a dog was just a part of my life. And so I think that I probably picked up some natural training abilities through that. So
yeah, right on. Well, this is a good one, Don. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I
enjoyed. This is supposed to be like did I say 40 minutes?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we're over.
I think I'm ready for another cup of coffee.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks.